I think we are now recording. It says we're recording, so there you go. So thank you everyone for joining. The reason I started this today is because I continuously have people asking me questions, and I just went, you know what, I'm always happy to talk to people, but it's going to be much, much easier if I go through and explain how I see the scan. So this particular scan is of a Sarplaninac. So I will share my screen so that you can all see. Now you guys should now see my screen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Dog.
That's dog. So Sarplaninac is that. That's what they look like.
Oh.
Just so you know. They're a livestock guardian. They are Macedonian and Yugoslavian. So they're also known as the Macedonian mountain dog or a Yugoslavian mountain dog, but that's what they look like. So one of the, a couple of the things I want to go through before we actually start the scan. Some people had no idea that you can scan with a MyHealth. I find that much, much easier than using a scanner because it's got wider bars, particularly on something as hairy as this, or with horses in summer with flies, because with the scanners and a little ball, if you get a fly and they twitch, it breaks the contact. I personally always do rapid scan with animals. It's everybody's choice, but particularly cats and fractious small dogs or horses with flies. I'd much rather 3 seconds, less chance of breaking contact. So that's just what I choose to do myself. Now, taking their history, I cannot overemphasize the importance of taking a good history. You need to be able to interpret the scan. For example, water comes up. With a cat, is it because it's being fed dry food? Cats naturally get 70 to 80% of their liquid intake from their food. You need to know that. If it's a dog, is it because it has separation anxiety? Is it because it's just been for a 5K run and it's 40 degrees? You know, is it because it's got, like, you know, are we having to then look at kidney markers? You need to know your history. B group vitamins, again, if the dog's been hooning around, B group are water soluble. Is that going to be affected? Or is it because the cat or dog is actually B deficient? Or is it because they're being fed commercial food and all the vitamins are synthetic and the animal's not able to assimilate them? Anything and everything you need to know. It makes such a difference for how you interpret the scan and which, you know, how you choose to treat moving forward. So get as comprehensive a history as you can. Now, this particular dog, I've actually taken him on. I've only had him 2.5 weeks. We do know his history and it's very, very relevant for the scan. This dog he's 4.5. He was on a chain and very badly treated for about nearly 4.5 years. The RSPCA in Victoria seized him. So for any of you that aren't in Victoria, I've got more chance of having lunch with Paul Stanley than of actually the RSPCA actually doing their job. Sadly, that is pretty much where it's at. So yeah, I just shudder to think. He was absolutely emaciated. He's still very thin there. Most of that is coat. And if I think he's thin, he's thin. They managed to cut the chain off the neck. So we've got a lot of neck damage. They then couldn't get near him. And after 2 weeks, they decided to euthanize because they couldn't get near him. And there was a foster carer who I know who was specifically set up for livestock guardians. So she managed to get him and got him down to her property, and the dogs live in massive, massive pens, bigger than a house block, so that they can actually put livestock in with them to see whether they're better with chickens or goats or sheep or whatever. So it took her 4.5 weeks to get near him. She started working with him. He's actually a genuinely lovely dog. He's not aggressive at all. He's just scared. and he's actually good with dogs. So for a livestock guardian to be good with dogs, again, yeah, go back to the Paul Stanley thing, you got more chance of. So I decided, yeah, that's my pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, a livestock guardian that's good with dogs, I'll take him on. Poor old Kerry, after working with him for a week, went to swat one of our lovely flies, couldn't get near him again for another 2 days. So you've got a lot of issues going on. Diet-wise, to put it politely, there's nothing there. There is nothing there to the point that he's not capable of making good decisions, not through any fault of his own, but he's been on a chain. He's never seen anything. He's never experienced anything. There's a couple of sorry, what was that? No, that was someone else. Okay. There's a lot of what we suspect are old fractures, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. Cranially, his head was pretty horrible. His parietal bone in particular was very tight. I will get, the reason I'm mentioning that will be later in the scan. And he's not seen anything of life. And there is absolutely no nutrition. It was very, very cheap dry food, if and when he got fed. Foster carers can't afford to feed a lot. So he's really only had decent nutrition the last 2.5 weeks. So you really, really need to factor that in, because you can't start working with all the emotional stuff when he's got nothing to make a sensible decision with. He's now inside. He's never been inside. He had more time with a human, with me, in 2 days than he'd had in his whole life. So you really have to keep in mind with this scan that this is a dog who's trying very, very hard, who's absolutely on the edge and can't cope with any more because he's loaded to the hilt. And there's no nutrition to back anything up. Ultimately, I will do stem cell with him, to heal all the neck and some of the damage. But at the moment, there's no point, A, because I don't want to stress him out, and B, there's nothing there to heal with. So that will show. So when we start looking at the scan, I always look at the ERs first because they tell a story. Now, surprise, surprise, the adrenals come up as a high priority. Oddly enough, that kind of makes sense. Prostate, it is spring. They do, the brain still works. The hormones still kick in. Even though he's got no nuts, because it being a rescue, he has been desexed. He was desexed before the RSPCA picked him up, so I don't know how old he was when they picked him up. But you're still going to see that, and with bitches, you'll see ovaries and uterus, because even though they've been desexed, all the hormones are still working in their brain. Knees, yeah, I'm not overly convinced his knees are great, and he's very much one-sided. Apparently, he was lying in a hole, and the chain was so short he could pretty much only lie one side. So, and of course, kidney meridian as well, which fits. Liver, no surprises there. He's starting to get decent food. Everything's starting to shift. Heart, yes, there's a lot of emotional stuff there, but I am convinced he has a heart problem. Ultimately, when he's comfortable enough, a friend of mine who's a vet will come over, but I wouldn't even trust him to put I'm not going to even get to that at the moment and have someone listen to him. It's just too stressful. He is that much on the border, and I have 2 cats in the house. It's just not worth doing. Teeth, they're not bad. Interestingly enough, when I did that, it was just after I'd given him a lamb, I think it was a lamb neck or a lamb shank or something. And I don't think he's ever had bones before. So I'm really not quite sure whether that's why the teeth, because they're not bad, but of course the 2 brain holograms, there's everything there. Now, when I, hypothalamus, when I see brain, and yes, we know his brain is fried, the first thing I always do is check the oranges for either skin or sciatic nerve or both. Hypothalamus, top of the liver meridian. So when I have a look at his oranges, surprise, surprise, there's the sciatic nerve, there's the skin. More gut stuff. Again, massive change in diet. I'm not surprised. Cranial nerves. This dog has a red hot head, atlas damage, and the headache from hell a lot of the time. So that makes sense. But when you see the combination of any brain, sciatic nerve, and skin, the first thing I do is check for heavy metals. Heavy metals are very common in animals. With horses, you get a horse that bucks from the trot to canter transition. One of the first things I'll do is look for heavy metals because they're fed out of, and these days aluminium is much more popular than stainless steel because or galvanized iron, because it weighs a lot less. But for horses, particularly foals that are copper deficient, copper chrome arsenate used to be used on treated pine. So they crave the copper and go and suck the poles or windsuckers, all those sorts of things. And of course, it's highly, highly toxic. And even if they're not windsucking and stuff, over time, when it rains, it leaches into the soil. For dogs, puppy farm puppies, you'll often see it. You'll also, I mean, he had this massive great chain around his neck. It ain't rocket science. A lot of farm dogs will have heavy metals. So the first thing I'll go and do, because they bind to the brain as well, and he's got enough brain issues, is have a look at the stars, and guess what? Chock full of heavy metals. So that is one of the first things I'll treat because it affects so much. However, even though he's 55 kilo, I'll only be starting on 3 drops for the first 3 days, move up to 6, because I can't afford too much of a detox reaction when the poor little guy's got so much going on. And again, when you have a look, the rest of the stars are fine, male, which of course tees up with prostate and what we were talking about before. So, but yeah, heavy metals, always check them. You'll often see them in show cats and stuff too that are kept in cages a lot, and never underestimate the importance of those with behavior and health. They really are horrid little suckers. So we go to his first screen. Diet, no surprises there. He's had a radical change in diet. He's gone from very little and very poor quality to raw species appropriate diet with probiotics, digestive enzymes, the whole box and dice. Hydration's pretty good. Movement and oxygenation, yep, day and night are fine. Big fields, no surprises. Equatorial liver, large bowel, metabolic processes. Again, gut. Makes perfect sense. Poor little man. When we have a look at how much energy he's pulling in, heart. And I am actually convinced he's got a heart problem. His tongue is often purple. Now, I know some of that's the parietal bone. Parietal bone's the top of the head here. That movie Conehead, you see dogs with a real pointy head. That's your parietal. The parietal bone has the cranial nerve for the heart running through it. I've actually got several dogs off all heart meds just by working on their parietal a couple of times a week. That is also where the crown chakra links. So if you have a dog with a massively damaged parietal, your love will often come up purely because that is where crown chakra pulls in. So it's a useful one to know. And as an aside, I'm totally convinced that's why so many Cavalier King Charles Spaniels have heart problems, because if you look at the shape of their skull and what they've done with them, they've got reasonable frontal bones, tiny parietal bones. So yeah, skin, yes, detox, that's every epithelial cell, lining of the bowel, lining of the lungs, lining of the gut, all the rest of that. Right now with this dog, he is starting to do a bit of a detox. I found at the vet clinic where I work, that I do nests, I found an old Integrator 5 bladder meridian, which of course is the lymphatics, that was out of date. And they said, would you like it for your dog? Yes, please, because bladder meridian, of course, is the neck. but also starting the lymphatics. I've ordered the heavy metal. It's going to arrive in a couple of days. We may as well start clearing out some of the lymphatics while I'm waiting. When you have a look at his integrators, at the moment, none of them are a huge priority, but again, lymphatics and liver. Liver I will be treating later. I think I'll nail the heavy metals first, but it's certainly an issue for him. He does the 1 to 3 a.m. From the Chinese clock, but equally these dogs are nocturnal. And that's another thing. I was a little surprised that his day and night weren't out, because these guys sleep all day and patrol at night, because that's when the foxes and the predators, when they're protecting the sheep or the goats or whatever. But yeah, his head is often red hot. The liver, eyes are red, that kind of stuff. The liver's obviously part of it, but I'm not sure how much is liver primary or how much of it is the damage to the neck, because it's pretty extreme. And his whole head, his atlas, it's, yeah, well, it literally crunches under your fingers. It's pretty revolting, really. Mind body, no surprises that the brainstem comes up as a priority. You look at survival, pack, all that kind of stuff. He's been to the RSPCA, he's been to the foster home, he's just come here. Survive, and he knew damn well he was going to be bumped. Survival, it's integrating with a new pack, it's a new territory, it's all of those survival instincts. And of course, when you start looking at what the brain stem controls, it's all the gut. Ileum, jejunum, large bowel, duodenum, pancreas, cecum, liver, kidney tubules, his bladder, rectum and the submucosa. If he has a uterus, I want to know about it. Acoustic nerves, and they are definitely bothering him from time to time. The pharynx, the esophagus, the lungs. So, of course, and endodermal tissues in general with tears back with skin. So you can really see where all of that is kicking in. And of course, the brain stem is one of the ones I will treat straight off, because not only is it helping him with all the new territory, blah, 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 but his whole diet and everything has changed so dramatically. This is the control center for the gut and the liver. So I might not be doing the liver integrator, but I'm still treating part of the liver with the brainstem hologram. I am the queen of the brain holograms. I use them for everything. Cerebral medulla, I'm not treating, but again, you look at what it controls. Skull, his parietal bone, yeah, it's pretty ugly. Teeth came up. Cervical spine, that alone with his neck, it should be in the purple. It's just horrendous. Shoulder, arm, and hand/front leg. Now, he's definitely can't feel his front feet fully, sometimes due to neck damage. So you can see there, cardiac muscle. I am convinced he's got heart problems. Watch this space for later down the track when I find out. Thoracic spine, yeah, it's not pretty. His adrenal cortex, don't need to say too much more there. They're fried. Lumbar spine was incredibly sore when I got him. I've done a lot with it. It's improved. Pelvis, spleen and heart are very hooked in together. And of course, that's blood filtration, just admitting. We know that the knee came up in the scan, so that makes, and kidneys, so, and his testicles, or at the moment, as I've saying, his D-section, it's all still there. Now the cerebral cortex, tongue, it's again, ectodermal tissues in general, thyroid, it is something. Now this is something I really will be keeping a very close eye on with this dog. A lot of dogs, I actually found it very interesting. I've always been a livestock guardian fan. I've had Anatolians in the past. Now, Anatolians as a breed do have thyroid problems, thyroid problems in dogs are either autoimmune or damage caused.
I have to look.
What I did find interesting was that when I started looking throughout the world, the American Anatolians, or Kangals as they're now called, or Carabashas, whichever one you want to call, same thing, different names, had far much higher percentage of thyroid issues than European and Australian. Now, part of it may well be because they have Dr. Jim Dodd.
It's like a wedding or something. Yeah, they've got brochet thingies. Whatever it's called.
Brochet.
Yeah, brochets.
Guys, can you mute your mic if you're going to be background noise?
Hey, you don't know what it is. You make up a word and act like you know.
Yeah, thank you. But one of the problems I found was that most American markets, they say, oh, my dog's, lunging, or it's starting to pull, or I don't want to take it out. And keep in mind, a lot of these dogs are dog aggressive because that's what they're bred to be. They're all using prong collars.
Dog aggressive.
What? Oh.
Prong collars, which literally damage the thyroid, or electric shock collars, which damage the thyroid.
We're not using the prong collar.
Whoever that male is, can
remember
we
that one I showed you? That's one. Choke chain with prongs.
Oh, man. So again, how much of it is damage to the thyroid versus autoimmune? I'm not sure. But with this dog, the fact that he's had no nutritional history, autoimmune may well be a given, but also the fact that there's so much damage to his whole neck, thyroid is something I will be keeping a close eye on. Pancreas, again, digestion, larynx, muscles and mucosa, again, look at the chain, bronchi, and coronary circulation. This dog has been holding his breath through stress for a very long time. All the mucosas of the body, they're all starting to move at the moment because he's starting to detox. Vitreous body of the eye and breast ducts. So again, you can see where all of those as a control mechanism are starting to do.
It's not telling me.
Whoever's telling, can you please mute? Thank you. Love. Yes, there is that disassociation from Pack, because he was by himself for 4.5 years. I don't think he really saw another dog or did anything. Yes, some of it's the emotional, but there is also, as I've said before, a lot of damage to that parietal, and I don't think he's pulling in from crown chakra either. So that's the sort of stuff. With a dog like this, I'm not even going to terrains. They're not bad. Immunity, no surprises there. Liver. But the only one I would have even looked at, particularly first time round, would have been glial cell, because of its connection with the heart, healing the body and the heavy metals. Not an issue, so I don't worry about it. Environmental, nothing really comes up. Teflon, he may well be sensitive to. I don't have any, he's never been inside. Herbicides, I actually expected a little more. Arsenic, again, that's in the soil. There's your treated pine fences on a farm. That makes sense. Herbicides, he really hasn't got much, considering it's spring here, and because we've been in lockdown, everyone's been spending time in the garden. Fungicides, insecticides. Sadly, he was treated with something chemical and horrible 2 days before I got him, so I'm not surprised those two show up. Food, he's going to be struggling with, purely because of everything that's come up. Now, EMFs, never, ever, ever underestimate the importance of EMFs and how much they can affect behavior. My last Anatolian, EMFs were in the red, used to have aggression issues in the house. Cyril was doing a course in Melbourne, so he came over with all his machines that go ting. It was a very interesting half hour. I wound up getting these Stetzer filters for dirty electricity because the count was pretty high. It was literally like turning a switch off. Yeah, I train dogs used to train dogs for a living. My dogs have done television work. No matter what I did, every time dogs went past, he would be throwing himself at the window. I actually used to have to shut the door so he didn't literally go through the window. The moment those Stetzer filters were in, and he'd see a dog, I'd roar as per usual, he'd actually come straight back to me. Pull out the filters, back to square one. Put in the filters, had a recall. That was the only thing that had changed. So never underestimate them. How much of it is because they're a fairly ancient breed and their thyroid count and that is slightly different, I don't know. Now, with this dog, I would expect radiation to be a little bit of a problem, purely because up until 2.5 weeks ago, he'd never been in a house, ever. So, I am always on the mobile, as we all know, and he has been in the lounge room at night when I've been watching the Idiot Box. But also simply the fact that he's inside till 9 or 10, I keep lights on till 9 or 10 at night, as opposed to out on the farm after 6 or 7, there'd be no light. That will also give you the same reading because, he's always been on a farm, no artificial light, never allowed in the house, anything like that, to being in a suburban house, it changes everything. As I've said, I'm surprised day and night didn't come up. Nutrition, is actually a little better than I expected it would be. A couple of Bs, you're always going to get that. Omega-6, that's all been dramatically changed. Now, a couple of the antioxidants are coming up. Again, I really do think this dog has a heart problem. I'll give nutrition a little while to kick in before we do anything else. Magnesium, he really does have muscle cramps and stuff. He's on digestive enzymes. He's now also on herbs to support his central nervous system. Wasn't when I scanned. I had to pick them up the next day. So calcium, again, it's naturally occurring now, so that's going to be out of balance. Ditto the iodine, because he's getting it from naturally occurring sources as opposed to commercial. But it's a pretty good screen, and it's only saying that they're out of balance with all these others. It's not saying it's high or low or whatever. Nutrition 3, and that's all pretty good. Again, amino acids for this dog at the moment are a little bit of a problem. Tease up with heart stuff, just wait and see. 3 or 4 months worth of decent nutrition, I'd expect it to change. If not, we'll do something about it. Metabolism and digestion, glucose metabolism, he will be coming off sugar because all commercial food is sprayed in sugar and sprayed in salt. So everything up until 2.5 weeks ago always had plenty of sugar in it. But as for the rest of it, I've got to say I was pleasantly surprised at how good his metabolic rate was. It's nice to see. The rest of those are looking good. You're always going to get 1 or 2 out. We know equatorial axis is out. What I was very, very pleasantly surprised at was blood oxygenation. Now, we can go to sensitivities. Rice, it's not an issue. I never feed rice. I never recommend feeding rice. Dogs aren't meant to eat rice, so that's fine. Soy, the beans is just me. Again, soy is in a lot of commercial foods these days. It's not a food that I would ever feed a dog. He doesn't get it, so none of that is an issue. Tomatoes, you should never feed a dog anyway. Sulfites come up as a little bit of an issue. That's not something he's really getting much of, so it is naturally occurring in some of the vegetables I give, but he certainly doesn't get tomatoes. So none of that I'm really looking at. Now, going back to the mind body just briefly. That's interesting. If Steve or Dave or anyone is watching, I would have expected the brain infoceuticals to be coming up. It is something I would have liked to have checked. So therefore, I'll just scan him as a human, because this dog, it will be interesting to see. So I'll just mark him as a male on a scan because it's not often I would like to see integrators 13 to 16, but in this dog's case, I would, again, in a couple of months when he's got his nutrition. So I'll just scan him as a bloke and then he'll come up. Emotions, I'm really not going to be worried about at this stage, to be honest, because it doesn't matter how they feel. If you don't step out with your boundaries and everything else, they're not capable of it. Yeah, they're all pretty good. Shock, well, yeah, it's a huge shock to his system. He's, new home. He's never been inside. He's never been with cats. He's never been in the suburbs. All the artificial light. He's off the chain. He's starting to do nose work and a little bit of training, 2 to 3 minutes a day, because that's literally all he can focus. His whole day-night cycle is being thrown out. Lights are on till late. He's patrolling all night. I try and sleep at night. Doesn't always work with him at the moment. And he's never been inside, so he's never, ever had to train his bladder to expand. So then you add house training onto all of that. I'm actually surprised shock didn't come up any bigger than it has. And quite frankly, it's a big shock to all our system having a dog back in the house again. Life journey really isn't applicable to dogs at all, with the exception of chakras. And this is always a big one to check. For example, I'm happily surprised at sacral and solar plexus chakras, because often gut stuff will come from one or both of these chakras having issues. Again, parietal damage, heart stuff, love is all there. The other thing is his heart chakra isn't coming up as a priority. So he's pulling in plenty of energy. I just don't think it's working that well. How much of that is because of the parietal bone? I don't know. I have in the past played around with 2 different names, scanned a dog, done a heap of parietal work purely to look for its heart markers, and they have changed within half an hour. Whether that's going to be the same with him, I don't know, because I try and minimize my time and my contact with him, and pretty much ignore him most of the time because he's just got so much integration to do, poor little guy. But yeah, the rest of it, I mean, if people want to look at beliefs, they can. But yeah, I mean, really, it's not applicable at the moment. Poor little guy just doesn't know where he's at. I am forgiving. I can guarantee you he's not the dog. I've got a client of mine who, bless his cotton socks, as a 17-year-old, when he was bored, hacked into the FBI's website just to prove to himself he could without getting caught. And I'm still trying not to ask him to hack into the RSPCA to find who owned this dog.
1, 2,
so he's much more forgiving than I am.
5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I am okay as I am.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24.
Hello, somebody's got their, who's counting?
27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39.
Oh my God.
41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49.
How do we mute
50.
everybody's? 50, right, they've muted. Good. This is not question one. So, yeah, that's basically the only things I'd be doing. Now, recommendation-wise, these are the ones I've picked. Big Field, poor old Equatorial, and it would not be 15, by the way. I just didn't bother to change his dose rate. He's around about, he was 50 kilo when I got him. I would say he's about 56. He has, and I mean, he should be 60. 70 if he had muscle on him. So I'm starting him off at 9 for Big Field, and he'll stay on 9. Heart, he started on 9. He will be going up to 15. When I get heavy metals, he's going to be starting on 3 for about a week, go up to 6. I'll monitor. I may go up to 9. He'll be on those for 4 or 5 months. Brainstem hologram, it'll be 6 for the first couple of days. Again, I need to monitor his behavior, because the last thing I can afford is emotional detox reactions with this dog. Love, 9 drops to start with. Ultimately, he will go up to 15, but again, I need to monitor. So it's just one of those things that, it would be lovely to whack him on a high. Thank you. Oh, it's all right. Sorry, I've just had a delivery. Good boy. You can sort of half see bits of head. That's him. We don't kill the neighbours, particularly not the delivery guy. He's nice. Thank you. Can it, Peanut? Good boy. So again, it's something that people go, oh, I just want to get him up there and get it all cleared. Well, that's nice. But if he has a massive reaction, and he may well, because through no fault of his own, he's essentially like those Romanian orphans. He's never had any real imprinting or anything like that either. He's got no nutrition, and he's had no omega-3s, which is so important for the brain until the last 2 weeks. So he's not, and he lives with 2 cats and me, and we don't know his triggers. So we're not going to get a second chance with this boy. So this is why it pays, less can be more. Less interaction with him is more. I stick him outside for 5 and 6 hours a day to process. And he's getting to the stage now, he'll let me know if he needs to go out to process. And I'll just let him out. A couple hours later, he can come back in. It's, this is where it's about what he can cope with rather than what we want. And even with infoceuticals, I know they're treating the body field, but the body field and the body are intrinsically linked. And of course, the body field is actually surprisingly strong, but the body's not. So you just need to be that little bit careful, because detox reactions aren't just physical. Same as people, they can have massive emotional detox. And a lot of the time that doesn't matter, but he's not well enough, and he's certainly not coping enough to get in the car and take him down the paddock where he can go and have a good walk off lead, sniffing in a natural environment. There's no way I'd take him around suburban streets. He wouldn't cope. And when he's not coping in the house and backyard without being stressed, you're not going to take him anywhere else. So it's all about knowing. If 55-kilo dog, if you didn't know that was a history, certainly my dosages would be different. Some of my recommendations may be different. And this is where it's just so important to have a good history, because if you didn't, you just don't know what you're always dealing with. And I fully get the client isn't always going to tell you everything. That's neither right nor wrong. But the more information you can get, the more you can apply it. I need to know with B group vitamins, is it because he's not getting them? Is it because he's getting them in a naturally occurring way for the first time if they come up as a priority? Is it because he's so stressed he's not drinking? These are all possibilities. B group as an example. So these are things that you need to take into account. EMFs day and night. With this dog, if it had come up, it would be because I'm literally flipping his whole body cycle round to the way that it suits us as humans, rather than the way that is appropriate for him as a breed and for what he's known all of his life. So he's an extreme case in some ways, but he's a fabulous example of what can go on. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing bit for a sec so I can see you all again. I even managed to hit the right button. What do you know? With questions, unmute yourselves. Some questions, please, and comments, because some of you guys, have been doing animals for a while, and you'll probably do it quite differently to me, and that's always great too. I mean, that was one of the things when I was fortunate enough, bless Cyril, it was a huge gift he gave me, marking the last of the old, the TWS exams and stuff before they changed over to the BWS training. I got to see a whole bunch of practitioners doing the same stuff with very different backgrounds. Some of them are naturopaths, some of them were hypnotists, some of them homeopaths, some of them were doctors. Everybody approached the same scan from very, very different viewpoints and still got good results. So, I mean, there's the old more ways than one to skin the proverbial cat is very true. So, questions, comments, things you do differently, please. Unmute your mics. Come on, guys. There's got to be at least one. Not a single.
Well, I do.
Oh, good.
Carolyn, I just want to say, this is Cheryl talking. I'm just here observing, but I do appreciate this because it's given me a lot of insight. I am coming across more people that are interested in the animal system at this point.
Yep.
So it's definitely something that I want to sit on whenever possible, so that I can get, some key ideas of things to go over with them. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, look, you're very, very welcome. And so how many animals are you doing?
Well, I work for NES, so I'm working with
nice.
practitioners.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm just getting more practitioners that are interested in the animal version.
Yep.
More so than before.
Yeah, and it is. It's as you can see with this, it is quite different to working with humans.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah. So that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Good.
Yeah, very informative.
Caroline, hey,
Yeah.
Anna, how do you scan them with the MyHealth? I haven't done that. I'd only used the
We
scanner.
get the Precious and we plug it in. Bear with me. The Precious, don't leave home without it, and it's no different. Plug it into one end, plug it into the other, plunk it on the animal, and instead of the tiny little thing, you've got these two big bars, which makes it so much easier. And it's exactly the same. Chat. Yes, we will be. Angela saying, I missed the beginning. Are you able to send the recording? It is recording, and I will be asking Tracy to put it up. Yes, I'm not that technically minded yet, but I know Tracy at NES is, so we will be doing it for you. But yeah, and I'm just lazy too, because I'm mobile. I'm not carting a scanner and a MyHealth, because it might be 500 grams in the morning. By the time you've done 20 flights of stairs and a couple of K, believe me, it feels like 5 kilo extra. I'm not carrying any more than I have to.
So where on the MyHealth is there a scan option? I guess I just haven't seen that.
If you don't, you just plug it in. The same as you would a scanner.
Okay. So what about the Bluetooth scanner? The Bluetooth.
I don't use it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never use Bluetooth and won't. 90% of animal scans have no internet. You don't have internet, you don't have Bluetooth.
Right.
So I actually still use the old system.
Okay.
Because it's all offline. And,
Gotcha.
Australia's internet is, to put it politely, third world. And believe me when I say that's polite, all the Aussies here will agree. NBN is the most useless bloody network of the lot. And with horses, there's just none. I was in one of the busiest shopping centres in Melbourne, which was one of the most expensive per square foot for real estate. And the original Provision, when they went to the cloud, I could get with internet. The moment they changed to BWS, once Australia gone to NBN, I couldn't use in that shop.
Gotcha. Okay. So
through the concrete walls.
Right. Okay. So if I have Wi-Fi, which I do most of the time with my team horses, which are 60 of them, there's no difference with the
No,
plug-in.
None. No, it's purely easier and simpler for me.
Okay.
And I just work on the Murphy's Law. If the NBN can stuff up when I'm here, it's going to. So if I don't need to use it, I ain't going to. But I mean, if you've got, decent Wi-Fi and that, then fabulous. But Australia, not so much. And that's been
Okay.
very polite.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Good. Hey, Judy, how you doing? Any questions? I know she's there. It says it, or maybe she's run away.
I'm going to ask you to go back to the My Health, Carolyn.
Yeah.
And you just plug the cable into the computer.
Yep.
So I'm assuming you just upload their information at that time and then just scan from there?
I just do the biosync. I'll just see if I can bring it up. Bear with me, and then I'll actually show you. Yep. Biosync. Bear with me. It's just gonna, the old computer will take a minute or two to, I'll just grab the cable while it's doing it. It should be kicking up. My computer doesn't like doing too many things at once. So I will share screen again. That one. Right, you guys should be seeing that. So then if I drop that one down, admit Judy again. Biosync is, as I said, thinking of opening when it does. So here we are, we're having biosync. So I'll plug this into the computer. Turn the My Health on. When it's on, plug it in. Always turn it on first, otherwise it doesn't register. Go to scan. And there we are. That was Mecco. So if I log in, it may well say you can't scan because it's been less than 5. See, one day before I can scan again because he was done 4 days ago. Otherwise, it'll just come up with scan. Yes. Plunk on body field. If it's me, hit scan, it's exactly the same as putting your hand on the scanner.
Okay.
But for animals, because you've got the broader, because you've got these
Contact points.
much better contact points, particularly horses and cats. I find it a lot easier. So that's why. And as I say, I'm just lazy and I'm not carrying any more than I have to. But having used the original scanner with horses and stuff, admittedly, I was scanning on the neck, which is the wrong place in the middle of summer with flies, but I just find it a lot easier. So it's just finding what works.
It'll give you the results offline also?
Yes, but I still use the old scanning program. I don't use the new. I still use TWS because we don't have any internet in a lot of places where I work on horses, even my own horse paddock. And I mean, that's in theoretically, notice I said theoretically, metropolitan Melbourne. There's no way you could scan down there with BWS. So I have the old offline system for that. That's just Australia. You guys, I think, might be a bit different, but no.
And Caroline, when you scan them, where do you scan the dogs and the horses? Like, where do you put the scanner?
Wherever. If they're super fluffy, say for example a Samoyed, and they're happy enough having their stomach rubbed or whatever, I'll try in under. It depends on the animal. I'll always hold their collar. I won't touch them. Collar and or lead, I don't touch because I'm not putting my energy on them. Horses are used to being patted and stroked on the shoulder. I know one person plunks it on their head, but for me, that can be a little intimidating. So it's getting to know each individual. And I mean, cats are cats, but in the vet clinic situation, I'll often, if they're in a box, cat cage, whatever, I'll actually, just because they can't move, the owner's not touching them, slip it in, pop it on, 3 seconds, bang, you scan because it's rapid scan. And often too, particularly if I'm going to do body work, I'll have a quick look at the scan and go, okay, they're the major 2 or 3 points, and I'll treat them off body before I pull the cat out. And by that stage, the cat's usually so happily stoned, it just sits there for the rest of the treatment without having to worry about it wanting to, you know, climb out or freak out in a vet clinic situation. So I just find it works. And it's finding what works for you. And of course, some of that will depend. What's going to work in a vet clinic situation may not work at a client's home. And even within that, if you've got a client that's single by themselves and it's a nice quiet household versus the kids are just coming home from school and running amok and they've got friends over, the sort of working environment you're going to have can be different. It's just a case of working what, because it's not like in a clinic situation. It's never a perfect world, as we all know. So you do.
So we want to.
Go on. Sorry, Cedric.
So we don't want to touch. We don't want to touch the pet while we're scanning them.
No, not if you can help it, because you're trying to get the pet's energy, not yours, not the owner's.
Okay, so then when I'm going to scan I'm gonna say a cat because that's tougher to control. So far, I've had the pet owners control the cat while I do the scan.
Are you at their house or are they coming to you?
At their house.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes with cats, particularly if they get to know you, most of my clients' cats, I've been treating them for years, they know me. They'll roll their eyes, and if I essentially block them on the couch, I'll get them 3 seconds, which is why I like rapid scan, because 3 seconds, you've got a reasonable chance of doing it. 15, yeah, not so much. So, but I mean, if they've got to hold the cat, they've got to hold the cat. That's just, there is no such thing as a perfect world, as we all know. So that's something for you to work with.
Okay, I've never set up rapid scan. Where do I find that?
Cheryl, seeing she works Finesse, I know you.
I believe that when you go to scan, right before you do the scan, you have the option to pick rapid scan.
Is that in the BIOS? Is that in BIOS?
It's in BioSync, yes.
Bear with me. Let's open it and find out.
I just haven't done a rapid in a while.
I just use, okay, so I'll just.
It is in BioSync because I did it the other day on my horse.
Right, so it's actually in the portal, is it?
Yeah, in the BioSync portal.
It's in the BIOS, yeah.
Well, this is BioSync.
You've got it.
That's your actual BioSync program. So are we talking that, or are we talking the portal?
BioSync.
BioSync.
So bear with me, I'm sharing screen again. Share. So this is BioSync. You can see that with your scan and My Health Updater. So if I go into scan, it'll tell me to attach everything again. So we'll just do that to keep it happy. Log in. Actually, I'll probably have to do a different. So it's after the login, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, then what I'll do is just so we can get out of it, I'll get rid of that bit, because then that'll be a. Log in. The swirly wheel of death, as someone calls it. Right, so where now do I do rapid scan?
You have to pick their name first.
No, I should have come up. Show all clients.
No, because it comes, yeah, oh, sorry. I thought you meant the other thing.
Yeah, no, I'll put in my name, that should bring up. Right, that'll do. Ready to scan. Right, so where now is rapid scan?
It should be. It's usually at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, well, I've never seen it, which is why.
Are you on ProVision?
No, well, this one is I have both because it's a different login with Provision, with the old TWS. We do love that. So if
Yeah, because
maybe,
on the BWS, it's at the bottom.
yeah, well,
of
it's
the page.
BWS. So it's not
Yeah.
in this case. So the only other thing I can think of is if we very quickly go to the portal, go to this, go to account, and it may well be in settings. Would that be right?
No, I'm gonna go into mine. Just give me one moment here.
Yeah, please do, because
Actually, I don't, I don't know if it's gonna let me. Hold on, because I've got so many things open.
at least it's not just me. So you're not the only one. And it's a really good question, Cedric, because it was one I thought I really do need to ask Tracy or Trisha this, and I didn't.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself either.
Oh, good. So it's not just me. If we don't, then Cheryl, can you ask Dave to please add it? Because
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely do. I just saw it the other day, as a matter of fact, when I scanned somebody, but what I'm trying to do right now, I apologize because I have so many browsers open right now.
I know that feeling. Would it be that you saw it in the human and not the animal?
That's what I was just gonna say. That is so funny that you said that.
Well,
It does
I'm
come up in the animal.
Okay, so
I've
she's seeing it in the animal. Good.
Yeah, I've done the humans and the animals on the Bluetooth, and I have not seen that option on the Bluetooth. portion.
Okay, so it's not just me then, as the bird would say. Oh, goody.
So I'm using the BWS,
Yep.
and when I scan the animal, it comes up with rapid scan, and I can click on rapid scan
Oh, okay.
in BioSync.
Okay, so somebody got it.
So
Yeah. I can't bring it up at the moment because my computer's not here. I'm on iPad.
all right. So your BioSync looks different to mine when mine was up.
Yes.
Right, got it. Okay, so that may.
I'll play with it and find it.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for asking though, because it is something we all need to know. It's not just it's not just one person with all of that. So yeah, it's useful. But yeah, for me, I've always used rapid scan because with animals it is just easier.
Okay, I scanned a couple of they weren't Chihuahuas, but they were really small, like Chihuahuas.
Yep.
And I was going to do like 6 drops because their size was so small.
Start with 3. And look, some of it is also judging the animal, because I've seen an elderly cat hospitalized over 6 drops of ESR. I've seen a dog go downhill dramatically because the owner overused, it had cancer, and the owners overused the MRs, sent it into a healing crisis, and it crashed. I thought it had another 3 or 4 weeks. It didn't last 48 hours. So it's very much a case of judging the animal. If it's young and strong, fabulous. If it's very young or it's old, or for example, kidney stuff, because that's life force energy, you might start with a bit less, because you can always do a couple less drops for a couple of days and then build it up, like I am with Meko with heavy metals. I'm starting at 3, then I'll go to 6. I'll judge, and I may or may not go to 9 in the first month because I know how toxic he is, but he will be on 9 drops of that for probably 5 or 6 months. So it's a case of, building up gradually. Feel good, I'm slamming him. Chill, he's getting twice a day, 15 drops. Peace, he's getting twice a day, 15 drops. And he's getting 15 drops of ESR last thing at night, every night, because it helps with mineral assimilation and absorption and pulls stress out of the gut. So with a dog with his history, that's a given. So
Caroline, how do you do the drops on the dogs? I know you and I have talked about the drops for the horses. How do you do the dogs?
just squirt them. Meko.
In their mouth?
No, just straight on the coat.
Oh, on the coat. Okay.
Meko, come here, mate. What a good boy. It's the first time I've ever done a recall. Do I get success? You coming? Come on, quick, 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 quick. I can hear footsteps. Come here, baby boy. Come on, what a good dog. So if I have, come on, that's it, come forward. That's it, good boy. Now, can you guys see Meko or not? If I tilt my screen a bit? No, you really can't. Oh, there you are. So I would simply start, get the dropper, straight down.
Okay.
And it's literally, it's that quick. And look,
Just the coat, or does it have to get on his skin?
just it enters the body field. It's the same as I've had wives drop it in their husband's beer. Not recommended, but you know. Hey, chill. I didn't blame her. I had to deal with him once. I understood. I've had one wife used to rub it into her husband's skin each night while he was asleep. So yeah, I wasn't getting into the ethics of all of that, but it only has to enter the body field. With horses, with my mare in winter, I'll just lift up her neck rug and squirt, walk away, problem solved. It doesn't matter if it rolls off the coat because it's still entered the body field. And yeah, look, he's nice and shaggy. So if owners are worried, they can run their hair up the wrong way and then just drop it on the coat that way. But, you know, if it's a boxer or a Great Dane, it's going to work just as well. It's because our subconscious is, you have a pill, you have a medicine. So by taking it, it's sending that message to the subconscious. Plus, of course, putting it in water. So many people don't drink enough, and you want to minimize your detox stuff. So that's why they say take it in water. Animals don't have that. And that's why I love, and that was one of the first things that got me interested in Ness, was a cat I had with severe nerve damage that you literally couldn't touch. She was in too much pain. She was on injectable painkillers every second day. So just being able to squirt and not touch her, 3 seconds scan, you know, non-invasive for her, simple, and it worked. And that's when I went, there really is something in this. So yeah, it's what works. I mean, yeah, you can do it under your saddle. You can, but yeah, I mean, my mare has to have her mouth washed out twice a day. She's had a dental and she's actually got old damage from a floating accident, and she gets food impaction. So she gets water squirted up there twice a day, and she's minty fresh once a day. So because she's just rolls her eyes and literally goes, I'll shove in pharmaceuticals in with the minty fresh stuff. But if I wasn't doing that, yeah, glass droppers and pony mouths aren't always a good combination. And it's all about keeping, not only, I mean, there's plenty of dogs I could dose, but could the owner? Probably not. And the amount of animals I see in vet clinics, and I mean, seriously, I don't understand it, but they won't say to the vet, I can't dose my cat. And then we wonder why the animal's not getting better. And they'll admit it to me, but they'll never admit it to a vet. So they can, you know, even a cat that's difficult to get hold of, if it's eating and you can squirt 3 or 6 drops on it of 1 to 2 pharmaceuticals once a day, problem solved. And that's something else. I always give time between pharmaceuticals. All the animals that I've spoken with tell me that their fields, well, they are different to humans. Obviously, we're not going to roll in horse shit and eat it. I can guarantee you Mecco will. Murdering birdies isn't good for our stress levels. It is for the cats, you know, different species, different requirements. But they do want time, at least a couple of minutes. And if your clients turn around and say with a horse, I don't have time to wait 2 minutes between, then my response is, you're not serious about getting your horse well. Go elsewhere.
So when I prescribe pharmaceuticals, I should tell them do 1 pharmaceutical at a time.
Yeah.
Give it a couple of minutes and then apply the next one.
Yeah.
And then no more than 3 different pharmaceuticals for dogs and cats.
It depends on what's going on, and I don't count the feel goods in the pharmaceuticals with those. It really does depend. And I mean, if a dog's only starting out, or a cat or a horse for that matter, and they don't have a super strong energy system, I will only start with a couple. If they've been on them for 6 months or they're robust, I might add the extra. And for me, yeah, particularly with COVID, and we've all been locked down with animals, people working at home, I'll say space them out. I mean, different with horses if you're not on the property or whatever. But with dogs and cats, I'll say to them, 1 when you get up in the morning, 1 before you go to work, 1 when you get home, 1 with dinner, ESR last thing at night. They're still getting them, but by giving the body field more time to integrate the information, humans as well, they don't get the detox effects. And, you know, I get it's nice. Oh, you're getting a detox effect, shows it's working, but that's fine if you're not. But if you're a single mum with kids, or you've got a critically ill dog that, you know, is a tossing up whether to do chemo on or not, or, you know, lymphatic blockage or something like that, you don't want detox symptoms. So it's a case of what works with the family or the owner, but also depends on the individual animal. I've got a lymphoma cat that none of the vets can believe it's still alive. And it's been going for 3 years. And every time it's about to die, they call me and we get infoceuticals and the bloody thing gets better again. Yeah, it's just the most amazing cat. And he sees the My Health coming, he literally dives into the suitcase and pulls it out. And I turn it on, he sits on top of it. He loves it. But, you know, for him, they have to space it out because she tried giving 2 10 minutes apart one day when she was in a hurry and he crashed. So that's what that cat requires. Her other cat is old as well, different problems, he's fine. So it's finding out what works for every individual in exactly the same way as it is with humans.
Okay, you said that, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Angela's saying, how do I check if the infoceuticals are working? With my own dogs and cats, I'll know. And people will generally know. They may not be able to tell you how they know. They might just say it's brighter, it looks better, its coat's better. Otherwise, you scan in 4 weeks and there's your proof. It was, you know, purple before, now it's clearer, it's yellow or whatever. But generally, you know, the animals do respond very, very quickly. And yeah, as one skeptic said, well, yeah, I reckon it's a crock of shit, but they don't have the placebo effect and my dog is better. Funny that. What was the name of that book again? I think I'm going to go and read it. Decoding the Human Body Field. Off you go.
So I have a question about the difference between using infoceuticals and using the My Health.
Yeah.
If you could do one,
I do
which
both. I do both.
If you don't have that option. So the infoceuticals are expensive. I mean, $30 a bottle for people. They can spend the $3,000 plus to buy the My Health, and they've got a barn full of horses. Why wouldn't they just do the My Health over the infoceuticals?
Because, thank you. You'd need to be doing the My Health a couple of times a day to get the same amount of corrective information in. If I've only got the one, I actually would use the infoceuticals over the My Health. The My Health, think of it more like a first aid. And unofficially, Cheryl, you might want to turn yours off for a second.
I actually wanted to make a comment though as well. So don't worry, I'm not gonna call you out on anything, Caroline, so you don't have to worry about that. But something I do want to say, because we actually had a talk with Harry about this a couple weeks ago. The ERs should not be used more than twice a day on anybody, because a system can only rejuvenate so much in a 24-hour period. And if you feel differently, that's fine. But I just want to tell you that was straight from the horse's mouth, because we had a conversation about this 3 weeks ago with a very inquisitive client. And the question about how many times you can dose somebody with the ERs from the My Health came up in a couple of the training seminars as well. So, you know, I just want to put that out there. That's the official, but you can go ahead with the unofficial if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, well, the unofficial, I mean, I had a dog with a brain tumor. And that was one of the other things that really got me hooked on the Precious, as I call it, because I seriously look like Gollum without the ring if someone tries to take it off me. And the last night before he was due to be bumped, I was actually afraid he was going to kill us. And I mean, we're talking a 60-kilo dog. It was ugly. And in desperation, I pulled out the Precious and did all the brain settings, all 5 of them. He was so good and so different, I cancelled the bump. That gave me an extra 3.5 months to find a cure. There wasn't one, but we started off with every 2 days. As the disease progressed, and in the end, it was every 3 hours. After that, it couldn't, day and night, couldn't control the pain. He went to God. But for me, I'll also unofficially use the ERs to diagnose. if I don't have the internet working or whatever, I'll take an educated guess and go, yeah, is it thoracic or lumbar? I'll hit one ER then the other. If the horse does massive releases on one and not the other, you'll know you've got your target area. But infoceuticals provide, I have found in my own experience, more lasting change, because that's it. You want the change to last. And that was the whole thing with infoceuticals, was one bottle was enough to then provide information enough to have a permanent change, not slide back a week later. And that's, you know, permanent change obviously is what we're after. And yeah, it's not cheap. And I'm the first to say it. Horses aren't, dogs aren't. But I mean, you don't always, Peter always said you're better off with 1 to 2 carefully chosen infoceuticals than half a dozen. Or, you know, a dozen random. So I would always look at your top 2, and that's where the showing the averages in the scan. I mean, you're familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Have a look at that before you actually, when you pull up your scan, always look at that before you go into the scan, because that can often influence your decision.
Yep.
That can often bring about the biggest change. So yeah, keep that one in mind too.
Okay, thank you.
Where do we find those averages?
I'll kick it up. I'll just screen share again for you.
Sorry, you guys, I'm a rookie at this.
So if I want to look, it's not in scans, which is why you're not finding it. So if I go into clients, are we there yet? It's thinking about it. Right, you guys can see my screen again, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so I'll bring up a friend of mine because I know she won't mind. There she is. I'm clicked on her. She's done lots of scans, as you can see. So when we scroll down to here, compare scans.
Okay.
Click on that.
Yeah.
And then when it, sorry, this is what I was talking about with internet. So I can select the date. There's 6 or 7 there. So I'll do the top 3 there. 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 she's had. If I want to then do show the average, I'll click that button there. And that will show me the averages. So in those 2, you'd be looking at liver 3 and ET15. They're old scans. But you can see here the average. And with someone else, it's pretty rare you'll get them that light. With someone else, you'll always have a couple of purples or whatever. And it may well be that they've been orange 3 times there, but as an average, they're a stronger priority. So, you know, that's one to look at, but it is, and then you would simply open up another window, click on scans, and it will then open. So you've got your 2 screens open there. So that's how you do it. But yeah, because it's with the old system, it was actually within the scan setting, whereas with this, it's in client. So yeah, there's a few people don't know about that one, so don't feel bad. Took me a while to.
So if when I do this scan and I'm looking at the results and I see purple all over the place, what is your recommendation as far as which areas to prioritize if I'm not going to be able to hit them all?
Always go to, we do love this desktop share. First screens first. Peter always said the cascade effect. So if we're bringing up Meko again, if his polarity is out, for example, his body field's running at positive, the rest of it's all irrelevant till you change that. Yeah, if he's not, I had one scan the other day, and it could have even been the one with you, I think, Cedric, where the recommendations were all terrains, which made absolutely no sense to me because the dog's not pulling in enough source energy. I think its cell driver was out. And I think it was kidney meridian or something, which is its life force energy. So why on earth would you be looking at terrains when it's not pulling in enough energy, period? And there was a couple of drivers that were out, and I think it was kidney, but don't quote me. It was certainly one of the major integrators for me, I would not be looking at terrains. The old training was always cascade effect. So if you treated this, all of these would improve. If you treated drivers, then you'd have more flow and it would affect the mind body, the stars, the terrains, and so forth. And I still do tend to use that because if you don't have, particularly if source driver's low, you don't have much energy for change, period. So for me, I'm always powering up the drivers and the integrators before I start. And I mean, I am the queen of the brain holograms. And that's my own personal, and this is my own personal preference, is I'll always go into these from second scan on, sometimes first scan, as with Mecco, because for me, if the operating instructions, so to speak, so the brain, all the operating instructions for the gut are out, I'll be chasing drivers and integrators around for half a dozen scans, particularly with dogs like pancreatitis, for example, can be ongoing. I'll go back into big field and you may well find that the equatorial axis is out. That's your liver, your large bowel, or your metabolic processes. And I've had great success with a couple of dogs that have theoretically had pancreatitis for years by correcting the equatorial axis and the brainstem. That was all I did. And surprise, surprise, they got better. So they weren't, their body field wasn't in alignment with the Earth's energy field and their operating instructions weren't right. The rest became irrelevant. And every animal is different. For a different animal, that may not have worked. It's finding out what works for each and every. But that's why for me, you always start at the left and go across. But also knowing your history is something that's so big, because pancreatitis in dogs may well be they've had a blow to the head, because the zygoma is the arch under the eye, and that has the cranial nerves for the stomach. So if they've been hit by a car or being a Labrador and run into a tree when they've been looking at a ball, over 2 or 3 years, that may cause pancreatitis. Pancreatitis, fair, fat and 40, the proverbial overweight middle-aged bitch. But pancreatitis is also an autoimmune disease. And people feed commercial food. The pancreas is doing double the workload. So you need to know, has it always been fed dry food? Yeah, well, there's half your problem. So there's all sorts of different reasons for a particular disease, as with humans. So, sorry, again, getting that history becomes really, really important, because the more history you have, the more you can change. Bloody hell, sorry guys. And of course, if the people aren't prepared to change anything, it's no different to someone saying, I want fat metabolism because I want to lose weight, but breakfast, lunch and tea are chocolate and Coke. The owners have to be prepared to step up and make some changes. Because otherwise, if it's the same shit, different days, so to speak, the infoceuticals are only going to do so much. The information may change within the body, but if the situation doesn't change, if the diet doesn't change, they may be having leg problems or elbow problems. If instead of lifting them out, the owners are having them jump in and out of a car a dozen times a day onto concrete, is that elbow or neck going to improve? Lifestyle management. All of those things will count. And again, knowing that history, it may well be the infoceuticals do 40% of the job, but the fact that they're now lifting the dog out and it's not jarring its neck 5 times a day may well be one of the biggest things. But hey, they'll put it on the infoceuticals. Beautiful, you've got a client for life. It's knowing these things that make the difference. 2 more chats. What am I recommending for elderly diet? Depends on the individual, but I always go raw species appropriate diet. Mother Nature got it right for a reason. For those of you that want to start changing over, Google Dr. Karen Becker, Becker. I'm pretty sure her website is healthypets.mccullough. She works with Joseph McCullough, and of course Joe McCullough did some stuff with Ness and with Cyril and I think Harry as well, back in the day. Because she's a very well-known holistic vet. She's got the best reference library I've ever seen. So if you type in elderly dog diet and click that in, you'll find there'll be 50 or 60 articles come up from her, and there'll be different supplements and home cooked versus raw, all sorts of stuff. So it's a really, really useful website. And for people that want to use essential oils, check on there, because some oils are toxic to dogs. A lot of them are toxic to cats. She's actually, I can't remember the name of the vet now, but she actually recommends a vet and their website to make sure what you're using isn't going to affect the dog. So she's a really good starting point for all that kind of stuff.
Carolyn, if you have an owner that does overdose their animal on infoceuticals, do you take them off for a couple of days and restart, or do you keep going but at a lower dose?
If it's a drastic detox, I'll pull them off for 2 days, then start at a slightly lower dose and build back up. If it's mild, I'll just tell them to chug a heap of ESR 2 or 3 times a day, and that'll get the dog over the cat or whatever it is over the hurdle. Same as with humans. If it's mild and they're a bit flat, ESR is your very good friend. If they're worried, pull it for 24 hours, 48 hours, and then restart, but at that, so if it's 3 drops at 1, if it's 15 drops at 9, 6, whatever, just the next one back on the tier.
Yeah.
And again, that's knowing your clients, knowing your owners, because the dog may well cope, but the client may not. And we all know that wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
What do we tell the owners to look out for when we first start to administer the infoceuticals?
Any changes in the dog. Some of them will do really mucusy poo after a day or two. As the gut starts working, and of course, because I do CST at the same time, I do tend to stir that up. Urine can be quite dark because that's, again, detox. Some dogs will drink a lot more water because they're starting, as the body feels getting the information, the body's starting to detox, they will tend to drink more to try and flush it out. They may be a little bit flat for a day or two, in the same way humans are when you're detoxing. Sometimes it's pushing the on button and you've got this leaping lunatic. It varies, and sometimes they just won't see anything, but within a week the dog's happier or its skin's improved or whatever. It's different every time, and it is quite subtle. It's the same as humans. It can be quite subtle. And again, that's where it's really, really good to take a good case history, because, I've had people, there's no bloody difference. Well, hang on a minute. You said the dog was doing this, 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 and this. Now it's not. And you said it never it couldn't get on the couch. It's sitting on there now. Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't realize. It's like a headache. If you don't have it, you don't think about it. And owners will get so fixated on one thing, might be the dog barking in the car. They won't see the 20 other positive changes that the dog has made, simply the fact that the dog still barks in the car. So sometimes we do need to remind them of that. And that's something, particularly when you're in their home environment, you'll see so much more. Or, they'll say, oh, the dog's hips are still sore. Yeah, they are. I can see that. But I told you that the dog shouldn't be getting up on highly polished parquetry and to get yoga, to get carpet runners or whatever, so it's not sliding. Have a look at it. Can barely get up. Its feet are scrabbling everywhere and you've done nothing. Do you really think that's going to change until you take action, or leave it only in the carpeted rooms? Oh, yeah. So again, it's and putting as much as you can of that kind of stuff, you know, no ball chasing for a week, cover your, I mean, I love timber laminate. Half my, this place is, I'm in a rental. And when my last dog died, that was the first thing that went out was all the old chewed up carpet runners. Sadly, when I got Mecca, the first thing I had to do was go back and get more carpet runners because he needs them. It's one of those things that putting all that in writing for the owners, because we do all forget how much. It's the same as you guys remember the first time you got introduced to Ness. You would have taken in 100th of what whoever it was that introduced you to them said. And that's where having it all now online is so good. You go into information overload. If you provide them with written stuff that they can follow, they're going to be happier. And of course, it then gives you a bit more comeback if they don't make the changes too. But yeah, we forget how much we know that they're still trying to take in. So yeah, no different to humans in that perspective. It really does help.
I just scanned a dog that it's a pug, and the owner said the dog has allergies. I didn't really know where to go from there because he was already working with the vet. So I just said, we're just going to trust what the scan says.
Yep, follow the scan because, I mean, okay, I'd be looking at probiotics because 70% of your immune system is made in your gut, but it needs to be a dog probiotic because they can eat horse shit and they're fine. We tried something like that, we'd get pretty damn sick. Their stomach acid is a lot stronger. So a human probiotic isn't going to get down to the areas it needs. But that set of symptoms have manifested from a disorder or dis-ease of the energy field. So strengthening the energy field is going to strengthen the immune system anyway. And I mean, a handy little tip that I was taught years ago by someone that spent $5,000 back in the 80s to learn it was with those little guys, if you, when they come in, wipe them over with a damp washer or towel and then dry them after they've been out, you're mechanically removing the pollen from the coat. So they're not going to have as much of an issue.
You're saying when they're out playing, bring them in and like wipe them down?
Once they've gone out for a walk or whatever and they've been out in all the pollen, yeah, just get a wet face washer or whatever, wipe them over and then dry them because otherwise they'll itch, poor little buggers. But you're actually then mechanically removing the pollen off the coat. They're not going to react anywhere near as strongly. And of course, keep in mind, you guys might get hay fever. You're what, 6 foot something? These guys are literally down amongst it and their noses are so much more sensitive than ours. So they are going to feel it more. And yeah, I mean, raw species appropriate diet, strengthening the immune system, naturopathy, homeopathy, all that fun stuff. That's your long term, but that's the body. That's half of it. The body field is the other half. And that's where Ness comes in. Treating the body and the body field together, unbeatable combination.
Do you get a lot of different conditions, or do you see, Carolyn, like a lot of skin issues, a lot of allergies, a lot of joint arthritis, pain? What do you see, or do you just get a whole variety?
Anything and everything, but it's also seasonal. At the moment in Melbourne, really heavy pollen count because it's the first time we've had decent rain in about 10 years. So I'm also seeing more joint stuff this year because dogs that may have got through last year when we were still in drought, we'd had more rain by April than we'd had for the whole of last year. So anything with arthritis that's a year older is going to be feeling it more. So yeah, you get a lot of the seasonal stuff. And of course you get the coming to you as a last resort because I've heard you've got this whiz bang machine and you know, the vets can't figure out what's wrong with my dog / cat / horse and I don't want to put it down. What can you do? And you get those too. So it varies, but it doesn't really matter what it is. You can always help to some degree, at least. I mean, if it's got cancer and it's on its last legs, you may not be able to, change everything around, but you will be able to ease its passing, give it quality. And at the end of the day, quantity is nice, but without quality, it's irrelevant. And also if the humans are using the infoceuticals, you know, I mean, I'm always, if I'm doing feel goods for the animals, I'm always trying to do feel goods with the humans, same ones, that whole crossover and synergistic effect because they are energetically intertwined. And of course, then if the human's better on the infoceuticals, it's easier for the animal and vice versa. So I do tend to do a bit of that crossover stuff with the feel goods. If I've got an owner yesterday that I was talking to, she's panicking about leaving the animal while she goes away. I get that. It wasn't great last time. So I've told her she's got someone good looking after it, chill and peace. But I've also told her you buy 2 lots and you take it while you're away. Because if you're calmer when it's tuning into you and you're not going, oh my God, it's going to die. What am I going to do? It's how's it coping? People do. If you're a bit iffy and you pick up on that, what are you going to do? You're going to drop your bundle. So by her having it as well as the dog, it works better. And that's just me. That's just what I do. Other people do it differently. And any other questions before we'd better wrap it up? Because apart from anything else, I'm not sure how much more space I've got for recording. And I'm not going to be very popular if it doesn't record.
Can I ask a business question? Or I don't know if that's appropriate here, but as far as what, I know I had spoken with Dean a little bit about them upgrading the animal system. And how do you guys find clients? You know, are you doing that just by word of mouth, social media? You know, what's Nest going to do as far as upgrading the animal system? And maybe that's more of a question for you, Cheryl.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a Cheryl.
Oh, I am so sorry. I because you had just said you were going to end, I actually was looking at an email. Please repeat your question. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. I was just asking about the business side of things of drumming up, you know, clients. And I had talked to Dean a while back about he was wanting to drum up the, you know, animal side of things and upgrading the animal system. And, you know, where are they with that? And how do you guys find new clients?
Okay, well, I do know that as far as the upgrade, they are working on it and they're trying to update all the files. That's a work in progress. I don't have an ETA on when that'll be completed, however. As far as getting clients, you know, the thing is this, animals are owned by people. And if you, are you somebody that's going to have a combo system, or are you looking at possibly just doing an animal system?
Primarily animal, primarily horses, but I mean, horses, like you said, they all have humans attached to it. That's not my primary goal.
Okay, all right. Well, that's because that's lots of times, a lot of my clients that have the combo system, that's where they get their animals, is from the clients, because they're working with humans and they're getting them. But I do know that some people, you know, will go to veterinarians, talk to veterinarians, and they will tell them what they can do. And in some cases, they will get referral business from people that work at veterinarians, you know, maybe with hard to solve cases and things like that. I mean, that is one way. As I was telling Caroline at the beginning of the call, I haven't done a lot with animal yet. I'm just now starting to get a lot more clients interested in purchasing the animal version. So this is kind of new to me as well, because I've been working primarily with the human system for the majority of the 2 years I've been here. So this is kind of fresh for me too. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be the biggest help with trying to cull, you know, animal clients. So I apologize for that.
For me, Tanner, it's been the opposite, because I've been working with animals for donkey's years. I've actually got some human clients, and they come back, which I find highly, highly amusing with no personal skills. But what can I say? I mean, if that's not a testament to Ness, I don't know what is. Hey, I'm honest. I would not recommend you talk to vets at the moment, purely because we don't have an animal system. Yeah. I work with the older, the TWS, but I had to knock back a request. A vet wanted to see a remote, and I had to knock it back because it's so unprofessional. It only had the human information. When they do update, knock yourselves out. And other horse trainers and that. But at the moment, being blunt, we don't have an animal system. We have a human system with animal outline. When it's species appropriate, you'll be able to get in, you know, other trainers, all that kind of stuff, because it should be with all the meridians, with everything in species appropriate language. And once you have that, you'll be able to go out, you know, go forth and multiply. And you'll find, you know, I mean, yes, social media, I certainly do some. You guys have probably seen it. Word of mouth is one of the biggest ones, but send snaps. Offer to, you know, oh, is that a problem? Here, I'll scan it, give you something to think about. But you can't do that until we get the system.
I agree. And that's what I run into. I work with Texas A&M and their vet clinic, and you know, I've run into some snags that way. So I totally agree with you, Carolyn. And I hope, Cheryl, that, you know, that is what Dean continues to do, because I'd love to see that, because I think there is a place for it in this animal world.
Yeah,
And-
I know they're definitely working on it because we've talked about it and it does get brought up in conversation. So it's not something they've forgotten about.
Perfect. No, I love to hear that. Will they continue this mastermind kind of type thing? I know there was, you know, questions about that on the Facebook group. And is this something that you guys will continue as Nest goes? And Caroline, hopefully?
We've actually just started it. So I'm hoping we'll continue it.
Yes.
And those are small core groups built, you know, with the purpose of helping like-minded practitioners motivate one another and, you know, be accountable for the goals that they set. So the groups are going to be small. And I know that our practitioner success team has been making phone calls and talking to people and starting to set those groups up. So, you know, if you haven't heard from somebody and you want more information, feel free to send a ticket to support anytime you want. Send them an email and say, you know, I don't know if you're starting a mastermind group. This is what I'd like to do. So please put me on your list. And I'm sure somebody will reach out to you directly.
This isn't something that I actually did through Ness. This was purely something I did off my own bat. Because, you know, I would get 2-3 calls a day, 5 to 6 days a week asking about animal stuff. And now there's stepped up yet. So I figured, yeah, there's obvious. And I mean, if nothing else, putting it up on the Facebook group really did show me. So I'll do a few more. There's no two ways about it. And I'll be doing a couple with Europe time and everything else, because that's what people are asking for. Can we use the human system to scan animals? Yes, you can. It's not something I'll be doing professionally, but if it's one of your dogs, your friend's dogs, cats, horse, whatever, yes, just keep in mind the species differences. For example, horses have a gallbladder meridian, but they don't have a gallbladder, that kind of stuff. I use, at the moment, do I use a human system to scan animals? No, I use the old animal TWS because it's all offline and I'm in Australia and we have crap internet. This one I did do on BWS, which is the animal system, but if you go through it all, it's actually not an animal system, it's animal outline with exactly the same information as the human, which is why, as I said, I wouldn't show it to the vet. But so again, it's something that when the files are updated to be species appropriate, you'll be able to share with clients and stuff. At the moment, if I use this for remote, and this is purely my stuff, because I know the animal stuff anyway, I will show it on the screen as we did when we're sharing during Zoom, but I never, ever give them access to any of the files. I simply email, PDF the recommendations, and that's it. I do have the old information on the TW about the old Provision, which is offline. They have all the infoceutical information and I'll email them that as well. But I personally choose not to give them access in the same way as a human because I don't think it's professional when it's human. But that's just me. Some people choose to. It's everyone's, you know, everyone's choices are different. I just know how my clients are going to take it, which bits they're going to pull in that are inappropriate, and I just can't be bothered dealing with it. So that's my shortcut so that I'm not getting hassled. Everyone is different.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, Caroline. So
that's yeah, as it's just yeah. Later in the day, and depending on my coffee thing, my how much caffeine I've had, my tolerance can be fairly short. And I have had someone ask, do you really think I should, do you think an infrared would help my cat? No. Note to self, never give a client that access again. Yeah, it's like the proverbial injecting bleach from Trumpy's comments. Someone one day is going to do it, so just don't give them access to the information. Sad but true.
Well,
right.
Carolyn, I really appreciate you doing this. This is very helpful, and I know it's on your own time, so thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. It will be going up. I really appreciate you all being here. What I'd ask, if anyone wants me to do this again, happy to. Email me questions about what you want covered. Yeah, it might be something about dogs, cats, horses, how we scan, whatever. I've had a couple of comments, but not too many. I think people basically wanted to see what was going on. I mean, I'm always happy. Someone wants to send me a scan, preferably of their own animal, purely from the point of view of if we start asking a whole bunch of questions, I'd like answers. That I can, yeah, someone wants to see how we do that. It might be a different species, cat or a horse or whatever. We can do that one day. It's entirely up to yourselves where you want to take it from here. There are some practitioners, particularly in the latter parts, as in later time zones in the US and in the UK, which of course is a totally different time zone again, that have been doing it for donkey's years. And they work very differently to me. And I'd really like to get some of their stuff recorded so that everyone can see how the, say Hans Cowell, for example, been doing it for donkey's years, very, very good. I haven't actually spoken and compared scans, but I'd love to see how he does stuff versus how I do stuff. We both get good results, but I think we'd probably both approach the same scan from different perspectives. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to give you guys ideas. And we all learn from it. So yeah, that's ultimately what I'd like to get happening. And if we can do one a month or one every couple of months, it really depends on demand. So you guys have all got, I mean, obviously I'm available on Facebook. You've all got my PM. Always feel free to PM me. You all know if I can't talk, I'll tell you, but I will always get back to you. So yeah, I'm always happy to help out.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Go and enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, morning, whatever it is.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
This should be uploaded within 24 hours. It really depends how quickly I can get hold of
Thank you.
Tracy and get it all uploaded, because this is all technological and I am the technological troll. Ask Dave Court. That's my name. I am known as. Take care, guys.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Bye.
Look after
Thank you.
yourselves.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.